Hey you guys, JB here from Alpha Wolf Consulting, coming to you today with another episode of Understanding Thyself, and this one is going to be creating self-confidence. So we're going to look at and do a bit of a deeper dive into understanding, well, how do I build self-confidence within myself as my authentic self, but how do I also build self-confidence in things that I'm doing when I'm trying to do new things where I may feel uncertainty, self-doubt, and all of that. So an important understanding that I had was when trying to do sales and when I was developing in sales was around, understanding that self-confidence or confidence itself is actually just certainty of outcome. Okay, so in sales, if I'm trying to sell a product and sound highly confident in that product, how I go about doing that is being certain in the outcomes of that product. Does that product serve my customers' needs? Does that product serve, my clients', wants and needs? Does that product or the features and benefits of that product actually work, in context of, if I'm selling a product that I don't believe will get the benefits that my clients want, it's hard for me personally to have confidence in that product because I know that it is false or misleading. So bringing that into personal development and developing my ideal self, I realized that when I'm looking to build self-confidence within myself, it's just based on self-certainty. So if I say I am someone of value, it's that I have the certainty within myself to know that I bring value. Okay, and this is a really important thing because what it allows us to do is understand, well, what is certainty of outcome? And certainty of outcome is just based around past experience and sort of lived experience. So what I realized is if I'm doing something brand new that I've never done before, it does translate. So I can bring, past experiences of other things that I have done in life and bring them across to this new thing that I'm trying to do. So for example, if I'm starting a new business, I can lean back on the certainty I've created within myself through training regimens, through working out. So like, for example, we understand that, self-belief and self-validation rely on conditioning in. So what we're trying to do is use past experience to help basically alleviate the fears and sort of condition in this new confident me. And the way I go about that is knowing that if I say I'm going to do something, or I say I'm going to move towards a goal or an achievement or a milestone, that I know I can do it because I've done it in other things. So it's really important for us to understand, the sort of the gravity of self-certainty, in that even if the thing that I am, gaining my certainty from doesn't directly translate to what I'm exactly doing now, it does overlap. So for example, when working out, I know that I can stick to a regime. I can become disciplined. I can create new habits and all of this. And this is what I lean on when I'm trying to build confidence within myself and that self-certainty. Because essentially what I'm trying to do is prop up my confidence while I'm building out my experiential knowledge of past experience and going through it. Because a funny thing is that I realized within myself is when doing new things, okay, so when trying to build, that level of self-certainty within myself, it's always the doubts and the fears that sort of make me less certain about the outcome. So for example, you know, when I'm trying to do something new, like for example, let's take YouTube, how I'm creating content. I've never really done that before in my life, but I'm able to leverage on my understanding of, well, if I put in the work day in and day out, if I look to get incremental, you know, gains day in and day out, and I look to just keep moving forward, I will always meet the result. I will always achieve the result, because I've done it in so many different things. So for example, you know, when starting in a new industry or a new role in sales or with a new company, as a salesperson, typically I would have to build up my own portfolio of customers and clients. So I've got this past experiential knowledge that, well, it's going to take me about, you know, 1 to 3 months of repetition or doing the same thing day in and day out before I become proficient enough to be able to easily, you know, close deals, to be able to easily acquire customers, because I'm trying to understand for the first couple of months. And it's really important, you know, for me, in being able to lean back on that when doing, for example, YouTube, that I know if I move forward and I progress and I look to get incremental gains every day, and I just do the work day in, day out, even if I suck at the start, every day I will start to get a little bit more confident and a little bit more better. And that's sort of one of the key things that I've found in being able to build that self-confidence to, you know, when I say I'm going to do this, I know for a fact that regardless of anything, I will keep pushing towards it until it becomes the result that I want in life. And that's a really important thing for me, because it's a way that I'm able to ignore the self-doubt, ignore, you know, all the negativity that's sort of coming in where I'm feeling insecure within myself, where I feel like I'm not good enough and all of this, and I'm able to just keep pushing forward, because I know at some point I will become good enough. Well, not so much that I'll become good enough, but I will progress to being highly competent and capable in whatever I'm doing. So that's an important thing. If you can think back to your life, you know, when we're going through things that make us feel, you know, a little bit less confident as who I am, we can look at past experiences that we have achieved and done, and it doesn't have to be anything great. Like for example, when I'm talking about training, I'm talking about, you know, I rely on just knowing that for 3 months I can keep it up. You know what I mean? Like, because it takes 3 months to build a new habit. So it's like, I know for a fact in working out, I can work out for 3 months day in, day out without breaks. So it's like, it's not that we're trying to say, you know, I've achieved $1 million in the past, I've done this, I've done that. It doesn't have to be these great gargantuan or giant achievements. What we want to do is we want to use these little incremental achievements that we have acquired throughout our life to sort of build up who we are. Because, you know, for me personally, I struggle a lot with self-doubt. And I struggled a lot with self-worth issues. And the thing was, you know, when I was working in sales, I created this persona or this character of who I needed to be, you know, to be the #1 salesperson. But then in my personal life, I wasn't investing into building my self-confidence. So this self-confidence I was building at an earlier age was based in my professional life. And then when it came to my personal life, I was sort of like a mess, because I hadn't invested into building up that experiential knowledge and really investing into building myself up brick by brick. Because that's the thing, you know, when we're building ourselves up and we're building this self-confidence within ourselves to feel good about who we are and to feel confident about, you know, we can go out and do whatever we want in life, we can achieve whatever we want in life, we've got to build the foundation brick by brick. And that's sort of, you know, with my personal, you know, personal development strategy is why I always say, you know, first we have to build self-validation, because we have to know how to validate, you know, what are my thoughts, what are my beliefs. Then we have to build our self-belief, which is just basically building the positive narratives and sort of trying to repress or minimize or get rid of these negative narratives that we pick up along the way of, you know, you can't go out and just become a personal development coach. You've got to go and do all these different courses before you can help people, which is just total nonsense. Anything you want in life, if you wanted to be the #1 investor in the world, you can go out and do it. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. But what will happen is, you know, day in and day out of you know, investing, learning about investing, researching different companies, what's going to happen in different stocks is you're going to build up all of these sort of this cachet of information that and experience that you can lean back on when making future decisions. And that's sort of what self-confidence is. Self-confidence is just knowing, you know, for example, you know, if we take an analogy of building a house, well, if we put the walls up, you know, that's sort of the first step, and then we put the roof on, that's sort of the second step when we're talking about the frame. And it's sort of like we're just one step at a time, we're building this house up rather than trying to put the roof on before the walls. Sort of, that's how we got to think about, you know, personal development and building the ideal me, is that we first have to build, you know, our ability to validate who we are and who we want to be within ourselves. And then we need to build up that self-belief of being able to repress the negative thoughts and the negative narratives and replant positive thoughts and positive narratives. And then we sort of need to build the self-confidence to know that, you know, if I say I am someone who does not manipulate other people, regardless of the environment, regardless of the situation, I'm going to stand by that belief, even if it is at my own detriment. Sort of, that's how we build that self-confidence, is just knowing, you know, because for me personally, when I was younger, I always struggled with this in the context of, you know, I struggled with, you know, well, if I was in this situation, how am I going to, you know, for me personally, my biggest fear in life was being a coward in my moment of death. That was my biggest fear. If someone put a gun to me, I'd become a blubbering mess and I wouldn't be able to handle myself, and I'd let go and break down to fear and, you know, just let go of all of my values, all of my standards, all of my character that I'd built. And that was what terrified me in life, was being someone who crumbled under pressure. So for so long of my life, I had this immense fear that if I was in, you know, the worst situations in life, or if I was in a difficult situation, I would crumble. And the only way I got through that was by building through experience, through going through difficult times, through putting myself into, you know, difficulties in life, and really proving to myself and building that confidence and that certainty within myself that no matter what the situation is, I value my personal values, my ethics, and, you know, my character and my honor above everything else. So throughout my professional career, what I did was I built up this certainty that, you know, when I worked in jobs where they were trying to force me to be unethical and to lie, manipulate and mislead and pressure my customers, I stood my ground and said, I am not doing that. I quit and I walked out. That's the thing. We have to stand for our values, and we have to build that personal experience of, if push comes to shove, I'm not just going to go along to get along. I would rather suffer and, you know, be in uncertainty rather than, you know, let my values slide, let my ethics slide. And it's how we build this sort of, this, not validation, but this certainty within ourselves that no matter what comes up in life, okay, I am who I say I am. Because, you know, personally for me in relationships, you know, I lost a lot of my self-confidence because I went along with relationships and I stayed in relationships that weren't healthy for me, because I had a fantasy idea that I wanted to be with a specific type of person, and I ignored all the negative, toxic red flags, and I forced myself to be in these negative relationships. And what that really did to me is that destroyed that internal self-worth, that internal certainty that I am someone who is worth loving. I am someone who is worth, you know, being respected. So that's a key thing to understand, is that, you know, if we've put ourselves into these situations, if we've lowered who we were for employment, if we've lowered who we were for relationships, for friends, you know, think about it like being in friend circles where you're treated disrespectfully and you stay in that friend circle. And you be around people who demoralize you, who, you know, degrade you and things like that. You know, like after going through something like that, we have to build ourselves back up. But a funny thing was in my life, okay, because I was so afraid of being my authentic self, how I did it in the earlier years was I would create a persona and then build that persona up. And typically that persona would be built through my ego. Okay, so I would build up my ego to, and this is what's not good, is when we build up our self through our ego. Because our ego is typically quite toxic, in the sense that our ego always wants to be right. Our ego wants to be perfect, wants to be seen as the best. Our ego wants to think that, you know, we are better than other people. And that's not the authentic self. The authentic self is, who do I want to be? Who, you know, what about me makes me feel good about myself? What about me makes me feel happy within my life? Because when I ask myself those questions, what happens is I find out the true answers of what makes me feel good in life and what makes me feel happy in life. And that's sort of an important thing, but a thing to remember is that, like, you know, if we talk about men, right, because I'm a man and I don't really understand women, but I understand men quite well. If we think about like a man going through a midlife crisis, there are two sort of responses that he can have to that midlife crisis. He can either double down and go back to who he used to be when he was young, in terms of, you know, pretending and acting like he's 20, getting a sports car, dating a young girl, you know, living a life without responsibility, and sort of double down and sort of, you know, not become mature. Or he can take the opportunity that is, because what a midlife crisis is where we wake up one day and realize we've created